Peace, guys. It's me, Arlene J. Ramsey, CEO and founder of Everyone Let's Talk, also your favorite self-wealth mentor. I'm in my pajamas. I'm in Newark, New Jersey. It's 4:03 in the morning. I'm wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. Over conversation that was had, it was a YouTube discussion, and it was on topic about black men, black women, and how black women are, not feminine, those sort of typical things that we hear all the time. And black women not having nice attitudes, you name it, okay? Yes, that is definitely a factor within the black community. But then there's also nice black women, sweet black women. And I think too often we get caught up in the negatives, and we don't appreciate or just shed light on those of us who are living balanced lifestyles and who live opposite or balanced to the treachery of the race. But one thing I said, this is very important, because the other thing we're too accustomed to doing is complaining about issues, and we don't do enough about solving it. And I'm all for discussing the problem, right? We have to get it out of our system, discuss the problem, discuss what happens because of the problems. Good. But I'm also about the business of resolving the issue the best way we can do, so we can prevent this type of problem from happening. Too often in the black community, we like to complain, those of us who do complain, and not enough about resolving the issue. Okay, one of the things I said, you got, what was it? The fellow we're talking about, women need to just stop opening their legs and having sex. It's just, and I'm going to talk about that in a few as well. But one of the things I did say is that we black women have to stop having children prematurely and stop having children out of wedlock. Okay, because the conversation was centered around single mothers, right? Well, single mothers, if the fathers are not in the child's life, then that mother is bearing the brunt of taking care of that child, herself, and everything on her own. And that's not an easy thing to do. And too often, we don't look into what it really takes to be a mom and how stressful that is for one person to take care of. We just throw these broad brush blanket statements out there, and we completely detach ourselves from the emotion and the process, everything that it takes to be that person or to be that thing. We're so removed from it, and it baffles me that we do that in this day and age. We still speak removed from what it actually takes to perform these certain lifestyles and responsibilities, and how we're affected in doing that, right? So when I said that one person's response was, do you realize that would not, about 70% of the black population wouldn't be here if women didn't have children out of wedlock? And this was also a response from a woman. Ladies, this is not about pointing fingers, but too often, and men say that, I've heard men say this too, but too often we pose an irrational argument just to justify our actions, But on the flip side, since when did you become so responsible about worldviews and about the black population and the black race? Like that was the furthest from your mind. But when someone poses a solution to just stop having children out of wedlock, now we want to turn into people who are so concerned about worldviews and the population of the black race. Well, if you were so concerned about the population of the black race, then you would be better parents, and you would lay better foundations for the children to come here. Now let's look at how successful are we as a race, as a collective. And let me not say successful, because there's a lot of us that are successful. Let me say this: as a race, as a collective, how powerful are we? Now that's something that can't be argued because this race, our race, the African American race, melanated people, whatever you call yourself, we continue to cry and complain about white supremacy and systemic racism. We continue to complain about the oppression that systemic racism is doing to us in this day and age in 2018. Yet for all, you think it's okay to have children out of wedlock or have children prematurely when you don't have a firm, strategic, balanced, and powerful foundation for them. You don't have good information to give them so that they can take this information and go on and be powerful so that they can take their rightful positions in this world and start to raise us up out of this oppressive state. You're not thinking like that. So how could you possibly think that it's okay to have children out of wedlock? This is for both the black man and the black woman. Why this is important. The other reason why I said this is, hold on, I'm drinking my coffee. Is you have black men, not all, but some of them that are complaining about how hateful black women are towards them, and that black women are not allowing, the mothers are not allowing them to see their children, and the list goes on. And fellas, I feel for you. I totally get it. But let's dig this. A lot of fellas, and I've heard this have come out of the mouths of some men. Okay, a lot of you never had any intentions of spending the rest of your lives with some of these women you've made children with, but you had intentions to have children with that woman because you're hardwired to procreating and leaving a seed behind. So you already knew you weren't going to spend the rest of your life with this woman, but she doesn't know that. You know, so what makes some women, mothers, hateful is when they come to the realization that you never cared about them to begin with. So, and you make it very clear, but you want to spend time with your child. You want to see your child. And the only thing that matters to you is your child. Not understanding that a woman, the changes that a woman put herself through to carry that child. You look at it as it's nothing because God put us here to procreate. See, you see women from a one-track mind point of view, and you think a woman's sole purpose is just to be here to procreate. So what is she complaining or crying for? But even if that's our sole purpose to doing so, we should be appreciated for that. Do you have any idea of how it feels when a woman is pregnant and carrying the child? We're not even talking about giving birth and raising the child. We're talking about when she's with child, the changes that her body goes through. Sometimes she can't sleep. There's the shortness of breath. There's the morning sickness, or just, you know, what some parents or people will say is morning sickness, when women are throwing up in the morning when they get up, they can't hold breakfast down. Some women are like that throughout the day for the like the first 3 months of their pregnancy. Throughout the day, not just in the morning. You know how difficult that is to go through? It's like torture. However, she grunts and bears it because she's carrying this child and ready to bring a healthy child into this world, only to learn that you use any excuse to split. But so now she blames herself. She goes through the psychological trauma of blaming herself and then having to face the world on her own. Right? Because when you skip and dip off, a lot of you dip off with the intentions of just saying, I don't even want to be bothered. Let her take care of the child. A lot of you do that, and then some of you come back and you want to be involved with the child. However, when you do what you do, the world is comfortable for you, right? Because you don't have any direct impact and your life hasn't changed directly, and you don't feel that impact directly when that child comes into this world. However, the mother does. The mother doesn't have the luxury of saying, well, I'm going to wait 2 or 3 months to make up my mind. Oh, I don't want the baby. Let the baby stay there. And then I come back 2 years from now, want to be involved in that child's life. She has to kick in and immediately starts tending to a child. Now, what happens to a woman is that a lot of her goals and aspirations she puts on hold because the child is first. The child comes first, and that child well-being is in order. You understand? So too often I don't think that you guys are understanding that. And then the argument of saying, well, do you realize that 70% of the population won't be here if we didn't have children is ridiculous, because you're having children in these conditions and then you're not giving your children the best of foundation. Many of you don't even know how to eat healthy so that you can help bring a healthy child into this world. A lot of children are coming into this world with birth defects. And this is within the Black community, right? More so than any community, where the Black woman is under a tremendous amount of stress. So Black women have higher percentages of premature birth. Black women have higher percentages of dying while giving birth, or they have high percentages of the child dying after giving birth, or just or experiencing having near-death experiences during the whole natal being with child, that whole thing. Black women, for the most part, has a higher percentage of experiencing not so good circumstances in being with child. And a lot of it has to do with the system, and then the relationships between her and the Black man, and the intentions of other people, and she doesn't realize how she's affected by it. So this recording is just to shed light from that perspective. Okay, the other thing is this, fellas, it's time that you start changing. You start really looking at Black women having sex from a different perspective. The way a lot of you talk about it, you speak, it's like you demean a Black woman when she has sex. It's not looked at in the same light as you look at yourself having sex. And I can't stress this enough. The same, God has given us that urge, right? So the same urges you get when you get aroused, when you are in heat and you want to have sex, women feel the same thing. Women feel the same thing. God has given us those feelings. Okay? The other thing I wanted to let you know is this. This is scientifically. This is what I've read. Okay? When a woman has sex, unprotected sex with a man, not with a condom. When a woman climaxes and when a man climaxes, it's something about the man's sperm. I forgot the name and all of that other stuff. But scientifically, that man's sperm has a calming effect. So it also helps relieve the woman of stress and pressure. So it's not just her climaxing and having an orgasm. It's also about the scientific effect on what sperm cells do to a woman to put a woman at ease and calm us down. So now we're happy and we can smile again. Right? So I say all of this to say that when Black women are angry and they're not submissive and they seem like they're evil and they're mean, well, let's look at what's going on in their life, and are the scientific measures or the scientific orders of life, are they being met for that Black woman? And I'm not giving Black women any excuse, because they are disgusting, a lot of them. However, those very same Black women who we say are mean, nasty, selfish, narcissistic, all of those things that we say, let's look at her personal life and look at her support system, her sex life, what is going on with her that has nothing to do with her job and paying bills, because that's separate. We're talking about nature, scientific orders of life by her physical body. Is that Black woman, are those scientific orders being met so that she can be balanced in life? The answer is no. It's not being met, which is why Black women doesn't seem balanced, and they seem like they're crazy and they're acting out of alignment of themselves. It is more a scientific thing versus a thing that they just feel like doing. They just feel like being fucked up people. No, they can definitely choose to self-reflect and choose to redirect how they do things. However, the emotion and what happens within their body scientifically is still happening. It still happens. They can just choose to redirect that and make it a positive outcome. But we want to get to the bottom of why the black woman act the way she do. Why she act the way she do. The other thing is this. There was a recording what was it? Yeah, the one a couple of days ago or a day ago, Black Women Aren't Feminine. There was a guy on there who's a bishop who left a comment, and I appreciated the comment. I'm not angry about it. But he had the audacity to tell me, or just to write in his comment to say that women in other countries where they were forced to be submissive, who were abused and forced to be submissive, are still submissive, right? So let me give you an example of what he's saying. We're talking about women from Saudi Arabia, the Muslim women, where the men want to, grown men are looking to take little young girls from out of their parents' house. And when the parent says, well, let's wait until she gets 18, he has an attitude problem because he wants the 13 or 12-year-old to leave out of that house and go with him now, and comes back and throw hot oil on the girl's face and got the girl's face looking all lopsided and crazy. Countries like that, right? He say that those women are still submissive. And this is very important that you pay attention, fellas, very important, because I don't think you understand how your perception and your thought process in life, how it makes us feel. And it makes us think that you don't value us. All you care about is that a woman just do what you want them to do. Don't talk back. Don't give me no attitude. Just do what I tell you to do. That's all you're concerned with. And you look to do it in an artificial way, by being manipulative or by being abusive in other ways. That's artificial. Not understanding that there's a divine order, a divine spiritual order, that if you were to hold yourself accountable, surrender to the higher power, and do things as a man of honor, and be able to make good, sound, rational, balanced decisions that will positively affect you in the long run, not just for now. Those types of actions, men who think like that and live in those principles, make us feel comfortable. It makes us feel comfortable because we see you as a human being that looks to thrive in life and make the best decisions without oppressing the other people around them. We see you as a human being who can say, wow, can hold themselves accountable for saying, wow, I was wrong for that. So I realized that was wrong, and quickly say, now what can I do to offset that to make the decision right? So when we see you in that light and we're comfortable with you, we understand that we wouldn't have to deal with any abuse or abrasiveness from you anytime in the future, because you got this. Versus the man who don't do things from that divine order. They don't make good decisions. They create bad energy around them. And then the ego steps in because you don't want the woman to see you looking stupid, or you don't want the woman to see you making bad decisions because you're supposed to lead. So then your ego steps in to confuse the woman and tell her that she's part of the reason why X, Y, and Z is happening, as if we don't have a brain of our own. That's why many of you who speak like that don't appreciate educated women. And it's not about a woman going to college, right? That's not the only form of education, because again, I can't stress this enough that I've never been to college, right? So a lot of you don't like educated women because we can use our deductive reasoning and say, okay, there's such thing as cognitive dissonance. And then we can say, okay, that doesn't make sense. And when you do that, we can tell where your shortcomings are. We all have shortcomings, but the fact is your shortcomings turns off to be a slap in the face for the woman. So whenever your shortcomings start to show itself because you don't hold yourself accountable, the woman has to brace herself because she knows in some way, shape, or form you're going to try to turn that back on her, and that's giving her extra problems that she doesn't need. And that's what you don't understand. So let's go back to that comment that you said when you talked about those women that I mentioned, like in the Saudi Arabia, and he had the audacity to say that those women are still submissive regardless of the situation that they're in. That's not submissiveness. What that is fear. Because in those countries, there are no such thing as women rights. In those countries, things are happening to women there the way things used to happen to women in the United States before the Women's Liberation Act and the women's liberation rights, before that got passed. That's what's happening in those countries. So there's no such thing as taking a man to court and court sending him to jail for doing these things. That's why a lot of these women, when you look at, and a lot of these women are naturally beautiful women, right? They're featured. Well, you know, let me put it this way, because I don't want to get into the European standard of what beautiful is, right? We're all beautiful in our own way. But let me go back to this. A lot of those women are beautiful. They're naturally beautiful. They don't need makeup. They got great skin, all of that. And and from doing research on this, you see that a lot of these men, they disfigure the faces of these women when they don't get their way. And some of these men don't get their way because of the girl's parents, because the girls are too young. You want a 11, 12, 13-year-old. You're a 40-something-year-old man, 30-something-year-old man, but you want a young girl who hasn't finished school, so you don't think that she's even worthy of finishing school, because all you want, or all they want, is somebody to fuck, have children, and just clean, cook, and take care of the house. That's it, basic. Meanwhile, I can tell by how things happen in that country that they don't have the ability to make, well, we all have the ability. However, because there's no checks and balances and there's no structure that forces them to self-reflect and check their character, they're not making the best decisions. Because there's no structure that forces them to check their character or forces them to say, wow, I made a couple of wrong decisions. I'm sorry. There's no empathy. There's no I'm sorry. There is, I said that this is what I want, and when it doesn't happen, I'm going to come and pour hot grease or acid on your face. Or I'm just going to come and cut off a hand or something like that. So he says that those women are submissive. They're not submissive. They're afraid. So, and that's the thing with some men, even in the United States, that when you say certain things, you're not in connection with the emotions that go along with the act. The only thing you're looking to see is the act, and you don't care about anything else. So if that act is not what you want, which is not happening the way you want it, which is submission, you're going to try manipulation. You're going to try brute force. You're going to try other forms of abuse to get a woman to just... But that's not submission. That's just fear. And how can you call fear submission? How do you recall some of the things that happen in those countries and know what those women go through and not understand that it's fear and not submission? You know, when we submit to men, it's nothing like, we're not afraid. We're not afraid. We gladly want to follow his lead. When we're happy, that when we know that he holds himself accountable, and you know he's not going to try to blame me for his mistakes, and you know put additional pressure on me or make me feel stupid or make me, what is that, gaslighting? You know, because that's the other thing. A lot of gaslighting happens. So when that happens, you're already abrasive. You're already like prepared. What is he going to say next? Because now I have to make sure that my response reveals that I'm not in the wrong. You know, so we have so many, we have a lot of bad behavior and bad habits. Okay? So no, and women do the same thing. Women are very manipulative. Women don't hold themselves accountable as well. You know, you have some women who think that everything moves off of manipulation. Like she never reveals her true self. right? Because her intentions is to get people to do what she wants them to do. So she adds on the emotion. She tries to blow things out of proportion, exaggerate on things, just so she can incite emotion into people to get people to move in the way she wants them to move. Not even understanding that she's exasperating the people around her, because she does this all the time. And once that happens, it's like you kick into urgency mode, and it's like, what can I do to solve the problem? Once you're incited by emotion, you take on a different feeling, a different thing comes over. Now you're kicking into survival mode, works up all your organs. Everything is pumping really fast, because now you have to solve that problem to get it back to stable ground so everybody can relax. Well, that's exasperating the people around you, and that's not fair. So, we can go on and on, but I just wanted to talk about this per se, just so because it's important that you guys understand that, we can sit here and bash women all you want, but you have to be accountable for what you do as well. The other thing is that there's not enough of you that talk about sexual abuse, prostitution, human trafficking. You guys don't talk about that enough. Well, let's look at what's happening there's priests and pastors in the church, in the Catholic Church, who are sexually abusing boys. And then in other churches, there are pastors that are getting molested for being involved in human trafficking ring and sexually abusing children. Who's doing all of this stuff? Men. You guys are doing committing these acts and these crimes against other human beings. And you know what's very disheartening? Too many of you don't stand up and say, wow, there are really some men out here that makes me feel embarrassed to be a man. How can a man do that? Enough of you don't stand up and speak for the rights and the souls of the people who have been taken advantage of. And you don't speak up for the people to prevent that from happening in the future. So what do you think women are thinking about you when you don't speak up for that? You think it's okay, but it's not okay. When women are raped, you think it's okay. You know why? Because in your mind, well, she was here to have sex anyway. So a rape is nothing. All a rape is that there's a man that she didn't choose to have sex with that had sex with her. So what's the big deal? It is a violation. You know why? Because in order for a woman, and I'm a woman, in order for us to have sex with a man, we had to psychologically confirm with ourselves and feel good with ourselves from within. Like, we go through the whole process of self-evaluation and self-confirmation. This is what I want to do, and I'm happy to do it. I'm pleased with myself for doing this at the moment, and I do that. When a man rapes a woman, she didn't want to have sex with him. Regardless if God created us to have sex with men, if a woman does not want to have sex with a man, that is a fucking violation, and it is a crime. Nothing you say, and this could be a full-grown woman, not a virgin. She could have children and everything, and she could be a woman having sex every day in her life. However you want to look at it, however you want to call it. Okay, because too many people got so many different reasons as to why a situation isn't as bad or isn't as complex. No, let's erase all of that. Whatever you want to call it, this could be a woman that have no hem-ups versus, when I say no hem-ups, let's say a 13-year-old girl that's a virgin. She never had sex before, and then here comes a 45-year-old man who brutally rapes her. I can understand where the difference is in that, because she never had sex. She never had the opportunity to select a guy that she wants that intimate moment with. It was just snatched away from her, and in a brute way. Okay, I understand that. Now let's take a woman who is a full-grown woman who's highly sexually active, who has no other hem-ups like that. That woman is still going to feel somewhat like that young girl, because she didn't make up her mind to have sex with that man. Okay, a woman don't want a man imposing themselves on her just because you feel like you can do it and you're the stronger one. You can do it. No, that is a spiritual crime, and it is a violation, and it went against everything that a woman could, you taking advantage of a woman's body, that's like her body is what she can directly protect. And you just posed a message to her that she couldn't even protect her own body. And that there's other people in the world who has the ability to take control and advantage of it, and there's absolutely nothing she can do. There's no such thing as giving her the time to go through the self-confirmation and process, to feel good with herself, to lay up and have sex with you. And too often, you guys don't understand that. You act as if it's nothing. The other thing is, what goes on in our mind is, well, we don't know if you got, what kind of diseases you got. We don't know that. You know, you can have AIDS, you can have all types of stuff. So you're just going to rape me and pass on your diseases, and I'm going to have to deal with that? There's a lot of us who take good care of ourselves. We make sure that we're disease free. We make sure that we're careful of who we choose. We're very selective. We want to make sure that man is healthy as well. When someone comes to try to take advantage of, we don't know what kind of lifestyle he's living. You know, so that goes to a woman's mind. That's like she's like dying from different levels over and over and over again. And then in some cases, time may reveal, you know, what will happen to her in the future as far as any diseases is concerned, just from that one act. And and you guys don't think about that. You know, this is very, very deep. You know, it's very deep, and it's more than just saying little slick things and having little shallow comments. There's too much of that's going on. And you guys are way too grown to be speaking from that shallow space. You know, let's start being more solution-based. Let's start connecting all of the dots. Let's start getting to the seriousness of why people feel and do the things they do. I always say, when the energy comes from somewhere, and when an energy exists, and you're having to deal with that energy, it makes sense to figure out, where does this energy come from? So you can figure out how to prevent it from happening if it's unpleasant. But the way I see a lot of people are doing things now when we're talking about black men and black women is that we're doing a lot of shaming, humiliating, criticizing, blaming. I mean, there's not enough solutions. And there's not enough deep thought about how these things come about. And then whenever we go in depth, too many of you skip so many steps and you go back to slavery. Okay? And you think that what's happening today is all the fault of the slave masters. You're not going to get that. You know why you're not going to get that? Why don't you? And I made a recording about this years ago when I say Willie Lynch is not that clever. I'm not giving them that kind of power. You know why? Because I was sexually abused, verbally abused, psychologically abused. I was abused from so many different angles that had absolutely nothing to do with that Willie Lynch syndrome. And so that altered me, my ideologies and perception of life in a way that had nothing to do with slavery. So I had to learn to become who I am, to being a better person, to being this person that's making these recordings before you now. That has absolutely nothing to do with slavery. Okay, so we're going to have to cut that shit and stop going all the way back, skipping steps and skipping years to slavery, because that just tells me that you just choosing to push off the responsibility to something else. No, let's hold ourselves accountable for the roles that we're playing in life today and in the outcomes that we see tomorrow. We have to hold ourselves accountable for that. Deal with that, heal from that, and then do better. That's it. Do better. Do better. And that's it for this recording. Peace.